Hello and welcome to the next episode of Digital Energy's AI Dialogue series with me, Julian Walker. And I'm really pleased to be joined by my founding partner, Morgan Eldred, and once again, Dr. Chris Cooper, and also one of our interns, Abdulla Aljabri, who's been with us for the last couple of months. This episode, we're going to be looking at minting and mining in the era of AI. And Morgan, can you start us off there about what this actually means for the audience?
So really what we're talking here is about Web3, which has a new setup than Web 2 or Web 1. It's decentralized, it's distributed ledger technology, basically known as a blockchain. And here you mine algorithms, you mine data, and then when you mint it, effectively you are just storing that on the chain. It's a transaction that is immutable. What that means is you cannot edit it. Historically, we've had systems developed that use CRUD. You create, you read, you update, you delete, which means anyone with the right level access into the system can come and delete it. When things go into Web3, you cannot, and the blockchain, you cannot do that. It's immutable. Once you've minted something, it's on the chain, stored, decentralized by many other people that can still be privately looked at. You can still create all that, but it's there. You cannot then go and delete it from all the things. And that's the thing to think about with all the energy generation that's being driven now by AI and by blockchain, we need a lot of compute. So we need to really start to understand what is, the mining of the data and the algorithms and the minting.
Very interesting. And Chris, I mean, could you say, data is becoming the new oil?
That's a very common expression now, as we've all heard, particularly in the new era of AI. But what you're raising there, Morgan, is really interesting for me, because if you look at things like digital twins, if you're looking at bringing it back to elastic knowledge graphs, back to the source of the data, if you can do that mining and minting at that point and timestamp it so it's fixed, that gives you an auditable chain to look at how the model's operating today and what incremental value you're driving going forward from that point as well. So it will allow you to actually build the value case around pockets of data and help you understand, I think, prioritizing what data takes priority over others.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at that, what we move towards is actually where you're talking about your digital asset management, which is not I'm managing my digital twins, I'm managing the value that is created. You create a lot of data, some of that data or all of that data is mined, not all of that data is minted. A little bit like if you think about energy, we produce a lot of energy, not all of that energy is the most optimal, right? So in the world of digital energy, right, where our digital machines are serious energy producers, we need to think about the quality of the data in terms of can it be minted? Do you trust that?
Yes, sure.
Abdulla?
I think if we use AI, we could optimize the AI models to reduce the waste of energy, and we could optimize them to help people in their own creativity. And about minting, I think if governments work on that, I think it could be a really big thing, as nobody could change the information that is minted, that is secured by the blockchain.
I love that, Abdulla, because the biggest concern I have in the market today is people are generating these models for fear of missing out, investing in AI just for the sake of it. Not really just for the sake of it, because they feel they have to. But for me, too many models are being built without thinking about the business problem. So what you're describing here is a way of catching and auditing to make sure that we've got the right data and we're driving value from that point. So it's a really, really valuable point.
Yes, of course, I think that too.
Absolutely, Abdulla. And also, the younger generation, I think they're more aware of this minting in energy or, the blockchain, which I think maybe us older dinosaurs are not aware as much. But I think it's fascinating. You've come in working with us and, you're already minting things in some of the projects we're on.
I learned many things from my instructor, Morgan, and about the NFTs and minting. I wasn't really aware of that, really, and he taught me a lot of stuff.
And, coming in there, Morgan, do you think there's a shift then in, digital value?
Absolutely, because I mean, if you look now, you have domain names selling over $1 million, right? You've got Anthropic, having to pay out billion-dollar legal cases because they've used somebody's intellectual property into the building of their models. So the way we value data is not the same way that we historically thought. If I go back to one of my old colleagues in Gartner, he wrote how you would actually value data, and it was very interesting. It was the same way you value information, your accounts and your books. It was actually a way of really looking at different valuation models. And I think that's what we need to understand. What is the actual value? Because whenever data is created, there's been energy spent, there's been mind, intellectual property put into it. Mm-hmm. So there's been a cost to create data, and we don't necessarily think that data has a cost to produce it, and there's a value of that. And then there's a value of what data I can really trust. And when you're talking about your digital twin and my asset, well, if I get those certain key things in my process, I can all of a sudden put a value because I trust that. I've got the right record, the right trustable thing that I can't just go as an auditor and say, okay, yes, this data has this value.
Yeah, I mean, spot on. And Julian, you raised it there. Data is the new oil. And if we look at the big grand challenge today in AI, it's the energy demand to support the growing use cases of AI, whether it be model-based, generative, agentic, whatever comes next. There's huge volumes of energy, and there's some real challenges. One, in terms of providing that. Two, in terms of making sure that we're not taking energy away from those that need it. There's a socio-economic consideration here as well. In our previous discussion, we were looking at ethics. It plays into this, but being able to now monitor and drive value from a data point and associate a value with that is really important in anything we do with AI.
Absolutely. And I think, so if we look at, let's say the younger generation, so they're able to now vibe code, pick up skills that we can't do, in our whole days, yes, we learned to code and we were very good at code, but we didn't change the language, we didn't change the fundamental technologies that much, and we got built on that. Today, the youth are able to come in and just explode with the use of technology, whether it's coding, whether it's new ideas that, let's say Web3, where you can actually mint some things of value. And I mean, I'd like to hear from you, Abdulla. What's your thought about, learning and then you come in to work on projects? What's it like in the real world, and how do you feel empowered by having AI to help you vibe code, for example?
So for the youth, I would say as of 5 years ago, nobody knew what AI was. It is something new for everybody. And I would say for the youth personally is to stay updated on these technologies, because everything is new and it keeps changing day by day. As you saw, maybe some of the videos from the Sora AI, they make the deepfakes look really good. And this is right now, and we can't imagine in the next few years how it will look. So I would say for the users to stay updated with these kind of technologies.
Life is all about timings. Thankfully for you, you didn't grow up like I did, learning in Fortran 77. So I really welcome your help and support here to help us really take this to the next level.
Yeah, sure. With the help of Morgan and my partner Julian, we learned a lot.
Absolutely, Abdulla. And I also think the point here, it's not just about technology, it's keeping people at the center of this new era. There's always a human side behind an algorithm. And I think bringing in the youth and the new generation is going to be key going forward. Because if you don't have people part of it and we're just focusing on technology, I think there could be challenges ahead.
Absolutely, and Abdulla raised the point, it's a journey. So it's about keeping relevant, keeping up to date with the latest technologies, how AI is evolving, how the coding is evolving. It's a journey.
Brilliant, guys. Well, look, thank you so much for all the energy and the insights that we got. Abdulla, I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Morgan and Chris, as always, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Pleasure as always.
Thanks everyone for watching.